God vibes only. 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 You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Harut, and I got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
Brother, doing well. How about yourself, King?
Hey man, no complaints, man. No complaints. Just trying to get better every day and day, man. Trying to get like you, my brother.
Hey, brother, we walking hand and foot, brother.
Indeed. But before we get too far, I want to remind you all, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel or whatnot, and hit that notification bell so you can know that we're going live or whatnot, you know. And as always, this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Caliprucia Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all. Got some exciting things coming on Patreon, so definitely stay tuned into that. If you're interested in the Patreon, just hit the link into the description of every last one of our episodes. Is in there, whether you're listening on the audio or you're watching us live on YouTube or whatnot. But if you want to follow us on social media, you can go to Instagram and follow us at Cosmic Convo. That's CCONVO. Let me do that again. Cosmic Convo. COSMICCONVO on Instagram. From there, you can get to all the other outlets, get to the other podcasts on the Push It Forward Podcast Network, get to the website, everything like that. For you, Brother Ra, how can the people get a hold of you?
Either IG or Facebook. You can hit me via Shechem Ra, or you can get at me at calipruciaastrology@gmail.com.
Indeed. And we switch something up. If you all noticed that the name of this particular channel has changed. We have made this channel the channel for Cosmic Convos podcast alone, and everything else has been separated out. So indeed, so definitely stay tuned. Watch the community tab, because a lot of announcements come through there and stuff like that. So, for the Single Dad podcast, we're about to start filming that one as well. So that one has its own YouTube channel. You can go and subscribe there. And of course, you already know about Ninth Lord Films and, the other podcasts we have, Plant Based with Love and the First We Build podcast have their own YouTube channel. So definitely tune into those. And the old episodes will be up and the new episodes will be coming as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. Or whatnot. But we're over here, episode 10 of season 5. This is episode 110 overall or whatnot. How you feel about that, brother?
Oh man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. We have just as many episodes as No Jumper, almost right along heads neck and neck with No Jumper. Believe it or not, they only have 100 and some odd episodes, so that's big progress, and definitely gonna keep it going.
Oh, I thought they might have had much more than that.
I thought so too. Maybe I don't know if they break it down into seasons or whatever. But when I looked at it, they showed the number on there, and I think it's 120 something or something like that. I could be wrong, right? But from what I saw, that's what it was. So yeah,
Interesting.
Right? Yeah,
definitely. Interesting. Well, just for those of you all, before we get flowing, let me know about volume. Drop something in the comments. Let me know if you can hear volume from both of us relatively well. Just put something in the comments. Let us know something or whatnot before we start flowing. I think we good. Rock, can you hear me good?
I can hear you perfect.
You hear me perfect?
Yep.
Indeed. Yeah, I think let me see something real quick. 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Mic check 1 2.
Yeah. I think we're good. Or whatnot. So, go ahead and, moving on or whatnot. As far as the episodes, I know we're not touching Joe Budden, man. He had he had almost 500 episodes or whatnot. So that's
Oh no, not even close.
yeah. So what by the time we get to there or whatnot, we'll be shoot, man, we'll be season 10 or something like that by that time.
Right.
No, season 20, man. Season 20 by that time. So we be willing and dealing. We'll be doing this podcast on Jupiter or something like that. We don't want the Saturn
Exactly,
rings.
right? From Mars, right?
Indeed. Before we get rolling into today's topic, Rod, you got anything that you want to tell to the people? Anything that you want to,
No,
announcements or anything like that?
classes are rolling. We got nice, sizable things going. So it's definitely a good deal. If you are out there, classes are held in the evening, so it's not on the weekends. Your weekends are freed up. Um, the neophyte level 1 class is just now about to start taking off. So if you are still interested, you might have an opportunity to get your leg in the door, get your foot in the door, and jump on in. You got a lot of information that you've missed, but nothing pertinent to the practice of astrology as of yet. But definitely want to get in now. After this week, the doors will kind of be closing pretty fast. So if you're still interested, let me know. Right. Of course, you can pick your level. You don't have to pick a neophyte level. If you feel like your blade is sharpened and you can, get with the best of them, right? You can get
Yeah.
into the initiate level, the adept level, or the astrologer level. So, let me know if you're interested. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text, and we'll definitely get you in.
Definitely check out those classes. Yeah, definitely check out those classes or whatnot. So yeah, I think maybe we'll touch on this next month as well. But there's some major astrological shifts happening coming up in this April month. April's going to be interesting, so I think we could probably cover that in more detail in another episode. Might be a good time to do another status check or whatnot, just because the implications of everything that's changing. So definitely stay tuned in for that or whatnot. Kind of almost speaking to that a little bit, because we're on the rumblings, the foothills, some major changes and stuff like that. As you all see on the cover art and the title and everything like that, this past Sunday, something interesting happened on live TV. There's a lot of different opinions about it, and whether, it's legitimate or not, or, different things like that. But nonetheless, it definitely made an impact. And for those of you who have been under the rock, that you don't know that Will Smith, matter of fact, let me just go ahead and roll the clip real quick. Do I got the clip queued up? Let me roll
Fair
this
use.
clip real
Fair
quick.
use.
Fair use. Y'all let me know if you can hear it. There we go. Okay.
My name is Dr. James Strand, and I have been using the Irisol product for about 7 months. Now, I've always struggled with having thin hair, and it wasn't until a couple years ago I discovered this huge bald spot on top of my crown. Now, it made me very depressed. I wore hats out in public. I even avoided seeing my friends.
All right, fair use.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right?
Fair use.
I'm out here. Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith.
You can
Greatest night in the history of television.
Right. So we're here to talk about this event that happened where Will Smith on live TV went and smacked Chris Rock. Or apparently smacked Chris Rock. Depends on what side of the fence you're on or whatnot. So we'll get into that, but we'll, maybe talk about, a little bit what we just see and, into the, the destinies of these two gentlemen, and maybe even take a peek at Jada Pinkett's chart a little bit, and then just kind of, put it all together, put it in context or whatnot. But it's definitely been a interesting, very interesting event that has everybody talking about it, and you'll see why in a few minutes or whatnot. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, so that was interesting. That was definitely an interesting night. I was watching Sonetta, and they start posting up on his comments. Will Smith just slapped Chris Rock, and I'm like, is that I'm because I don't follow the Oscars. I don't think I've watched the Oscars ever. Really, to think about it, I don't think I've ever watched the Oscars. Maybe the Grammys. I've watched more the Grammys than I have the Oscars. But it's just interesting how they haven't had much presence, especially with the Black community. African American community, they definitely have had their negative kind of. They've been in the negative light with us for a while, and just because the way that they kind of cut us out of the whole picture of being able to have some type of real presence when we full well know, right, that we should be winning awards left and right. So
the interesting thing about that is that when you're around a lot of white people, it's really two different worlds, to be honest with you, because a lot of movies that we have that do better than theirs, but they don't watch them. Some of them don't watch them, like the contemporary, regular American crowd, your traditional. A lot of them don't watch a lot of those movies that we view as classics. So, the Oscars really kind of highlights that, because it's like, we're like, yo, I ain't even watched that movie. But there's other people that's like, oh, that was the best movie I've ever seen. Certain, and some of us do, like, like my mate, they used to, what was that book? Movies, The Notebook and stuff like that. Like, I've never watched that movie, but apparently it's a classic.
Right.
Right. So, I was having a conversation with someone, and it's the same type of thing. We was talking about The Wire, and he was like, I don't, that movie, that series got all types of awards, but he just totally was oblivious to it, never even thought to even watch it or whatnot. So it's just interesting, like, how we got these multiple worlds going on or whatnot,
Yeah, definitely. Considering even that the actual award looks like Ptah, right? The statue of Ptah, considering, right? It's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at this point the Oscars are definitely going to be a conversation for the rest of. It's one of those yearly moments when you look back throughout the year. You know what I mean? They're going to
Right.
talk about this, in a recap of the year, I'm sure, considering the events that have taken place. And, you know, um, just talking about Will Smith alone, right? Um, he's definitely got a interesting. Uh, he's got a relationship that for Hollywood is not uncommon, but it's just unfortunate that his all his businessman is just out on the street. It just is, and it's a public conversation now. I mean, when Jada came out with that whole entanglement piece, they even have a movie called Entanglement. Right? They made a movie, I think last year, called Entanglement. Right.
Oh
So
man.
the light is not one that is because of their skills or talents. It's because of the toxicity and the drama that is generated from or has been generated from their marriage. And you know just to think that your wife displays all of her private secrets on the red table, right? Red table talk. That's embarrassing, man. That's embarrassing to a degree. For me it
I
would be. I don't know about anybody else, but I can only speak for my person. And from where I sit, that would be embarrassing, man. Right.
I don't know what people have like this weird, kind of need to feel like they need to get other people's validation for things. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's like, you really with certain things. I don't know. Some people, people believe that they actually owe that, to
Hmm.
the public.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, like is viewed as almost like a, I guess you could view it as an admirable thing, but I don't think it's not necessary. I mean, it might be you might be getting a gain from it and stuff like that. But people say, I'm being transparent, but you're being transparent with who for what? These are
To,
regular
to,
people. They
to,
watch
to
your
what
movies.
end? But
To what end?
like what is the what are you gonna get out of displaying your indiscretions in
Right.
public? And it would have been a one-sided conversation if it were me. Like I wouldn't have even appeared on Red Table Talk or any other talk for that matter about the my marriage and this because this marriage is supposed to be
I
sacred.
mean, it's a sacred institution, right? It's
Yeah.
not, it ain't supposed to be everybody's business like that. Unless
Mm,
maybe your community and stuff like that, that people who are actually going to help your marriage or something like that. But like
no,
to the general public, nah.
no. And um interesting, it's interesting. Because if you look at her chart for a split second, she's Scorpio ascendant, right? I think that's Will. Yeah, that's Will. And it's a trip because their charts are they have that opposite energy, Scorpio and Taurus, seventh house interactions, which is, very strong for marriage in Vedic astrology. So that's interesting alone that they have that, that interaction.
Well, they're
Right?
still together, right?
I mean, that they're together for how
Right.
long, right? Is a matter of speaking, but they're together for right now.
Right.
Because there's been talk about divorce and all kind of crazy stuff, and for them to have existed, I think this long is probably running a marathon in Hollywood, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're running a good race because for the most part they end pretty quickly. They almost end before they begin. But you know, when you look at this chart here, she's Scorpio ascendant. Now, I'm not saying Scorpios are secretive, quote unquote. In fact, they really have a dual sided aspect to them with regards to information. They're not as secretive as you might think, right? But the one thing that I know why she would reveal this, just to kind of bring her chart to light, to kind of fold her into this whole equation of what has happened, right? Look at her ascendant Lord, right? it's Mars.
Right.
And isn't it interesting that it's in the third house of talk,
Right.
right? And Mars's color is red, right?
And folks, this is the third house. This is Mars right here. This, this symbol right here.
It's red, and it's in the house of talk,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
right?
Interesting selection of hers, right? Red table
For
talk.
red table talk, right? I'm just like really like okay, right? Not only that, right? It's exalted, not by
Yep.
degree, but by placement, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's close to exalt. It's not close to exaltation, but it is in the sign of exaltation. It is exalted, quote unquote, right? And then on top of that, it's with Rahu. So her ascendant Lord itself, right, being in that house of expression and then need to get it out and then need to say something, right?
It's all on her. I mean, it's
Yeah,
all on her, all over her chart. I mean, like
yeah.
exalted Mars, Scorpio ascended, Moon and Leo. She's just hot, and when she start talking, jeez, jeez,
Rahu's gonna inflate that, right? It's gonna blow it up or blow it out of proportion,
right.
right? So she's gonna say something. She's gonna have something to say, whether it be public or private.
And look, she just, not just, but 2 years ago, she's only been in that Jupiter Dasha 2 years ago. Prior to that, prior to 2020, that was all Rahu for 18 years.
And that's when Red Table Talk happened.
Right.
Rahu is when it happened, right? And Rahu takes on that energy of a planet that's conjunct by far,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's going to do that. And isn't it interesting that what Rahu would reveal is the planet that it rules is in the what house? The house of marriage.
Seventh house. Saturn's right here, folks. Seventh house.
So Rahu's Lord, the karmic dispensation planet, is in the house of relationships. And so she's going to definitely air out or talk about or exacerbate whatever issues are going on in her marriage. This is her first marriage. I mean, considering, right? That's interesting. So we can understand why Jada would present something of such a nature, right? Now she might be looking in hindsight. I believe she's looking back and saying, you know what? Maybe I did go too far. Rahu doesn't give you any boundaries. It crosses all boundaries, right?
Right.
If Ketu is headless, right? Rahu is just nothing but a talking head, right? It's nothing but head energy, right? So it's just
Right.
going to display that characteristic of courageousness, conversations, talking about those indiscretions that I had a entanglement. And here's the thing about it: Rahu would make entanglements. Makes perfect sense.
Snake wrap all around.
I'm just saying, right?
Right.
I mean, K2 is in Ashlesha, right? It's in Ashlesha. So being headless about those entanglements, right? She told it. She's gonna tell it, and she's not gonna back down from it. Scorpions are also warriors in a sense that they have a secret weapon, right?
Right.
And that secret weapon can be for a woman, her tongue, right? Look at Mercury, right? It's in Leo. So she can be bodacious, proud, arrogant to a degree, right? Beautiful actress. And Moon in Purva Falguni, right, in the 10th house would definitely give her those acting skills, right? So she definitely has that part, bar none, right? She's got that locked. But
Right.
for the most part, right, I mean, a woman's moon in Purva Falguni is a harsh nakshatra. It can be brutal. You would think that it's kind of nice. It can be brutal, right?
Yeah, a lot of women that A lot of women I meet with that nakshatra as a moon.
It can be brutal.
Yeah.
Right. They're very good lovers, protectors of family. They love family, all those things, but play with them and see if you don't get bit because I mean, it is a lioness. Don't forget, it is a softer side of the lion, but it is a lioness. So this fits her so well. It's interesting just to have her chart up to be able to review it. But not only that, she's in a Jupiter Dasha now, right? And when you understand how things work, right? This dasha that she's in is a revelatory dasha. Jupiter kind of turns the light switch on for you. So she's only
Mm-hmm.
been in it a good year, maybe 2 years now, going on to exactly 2 years, right?
Right.
So the light switch is kind of coming on. So the light switch being turned on, but at the same time, isn't it interesting how the light switch turns on, but then this physical condition develops alopecia, and that alopecia is from her transits. That is why it's developed, right? K2 is still in the ascendant. I know some people would argue and say it's not in Scorpio anymore if you're using the true node, but the ancients used mean node, and I stick with the ancients. Sorry, old school, just rolls like that, right? But I stick with the ancients, and the ancients use the mean node. So right now, Rahu and Ketu are still in the respective signs of Taurus and Scorpio.
Right.
Right? So Ketu rolling over the first house, which is the what?
Head.
The head. And remember, alopecia is not something that happens overnight. You don't wake up bald headed, right? You wake up and it's gradual. You might lose, some of your eyebrow or some of your portions of your other parts for your hair. So it's an accumulative process, and I'm pretty sure she began to notice it last year, probably towards the beginning of last year when K2 was making its movement over her ascendant degree. So
Right.
now K2, since it's leaving, it's done its damage, it's done its work, and it's now changing her appearance, right? Remember, she's now head, and I'm not making any jokes because I don't want to make anyone think that I'm, downing someone's physical condition, not by any means, but I'm saying K2 makes you headless or hairless,
Right.
right? It takes away something, right? And the marker of many times, not always, because you have African women that can rock a bald head and look just as good as someone with shoulder length hair. That's not what I'm saying, but for many women, many times a hair is the hallmark or trait of their beauty or the essence of their ability to become or to feel attractive. And this is something new for her, so she is feeling you know kind of out of sorts. But the thing is that irony always has a way to play itself out. You put yourself on display. You're on these red table talks, and you're living the life of, the wife of a multi-million-dollar movie star. I mean, considering the comparison between them, those two, Will is the man, right? She, not to say she hasn't had her roles. She definitely has, but when it comes to box office hits, Will Smith
Yeah.
by far, right, is the breadwinner. So, it's just ironic to me that we see someone that has always been very attractive, always beautiful. Jada Pinkett was, you know, seriously the apple of many guys' eye when I was coming up. Especially when she was in Menace to Society and a few other movies, especially when she was on Different World, right?
Different. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she's always been a cutie, but she's definitely. I think she's done some things to her face, her body, just from the perspective of plastic surgery. But
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, at this point, her physical appearance has permanently changed. And when you see her response and that reaction that she had in that with that comment that Chris Rock made, you could see she definitely was not pleased with the comment. She was like, "Okay, here we go." Right.
Right.
Um, so I would understand if I were to project, or not say project, but peer into her feelings at the time. Right. She definitely feels humiliated. Right. And K2 is going to humiliate you. right? In some way. The other odd thing about it is that at the same time, Rahu is in the seventh house, so it also gives you public what? Notoriety.
Alrighty.
So it's a double-edged sword for her. And Ketu and Rahu does that pull and push, kind of rips you apart and then puts you back together again type energy. That's what it does when when it's transiting certain accesses. And that axis is the ascendant in the seventh house. And of course, seventh house, Rahu is will, right?
Right.
Looking at Jada Pinkett Smith's age, right, in comparison to um, Will. Will is born in 68. She's 71. So it's not the disparaging kind of aspect that you would think with Saturn in the seventh house. I would think she would have someone that's a lot older, right? But Will kind of carries himself like an OG. You know what I mean? He's not, he's definitely been around the block a few times in the sense of his relationships and things of that nature. So he's not a new guy in that consideration. But um, Saturn in the seventh house is kind of challenging for relationships to a degree, right?
Right.
It has Jupiter as an aspect, so by aspect, so it does lighten the load, so it can at least last. So I mean,
Makes it dutiful.
it does.
Makes it makes it about the business of it.
Yeah, you're not gonna just once you get married, and it's in a fairly healthy sign. It's in a Venus ruled sign. So it's not that damaged in the sense of its placement, but Saturn in the seventh house is pressure in relationships. And a lot of times the person can add that pressure because remember, her ascendant Lord is in Capricorn and Saturn does rule Capricorn.
Right.
So it's her kind of also adding fuel to the fire as far as that distancing. And they have been distant quite a while in their relationship, right? They haven't been like, they've been close to some degree, but there's also been some distance, some separation. And you can see that with Saturn in the seventh house many times. But the other thing is that her seventh of Lord is debilitated.
Right.
And it is combust.
Yeah.
Right? It's burnt. It's singed.
Yeah, and it's not canceled either.
Oh no, she has no cancellations.
Yep, that's a real live. Yeah,
that's a real live debilitation. So
and for y'all,
well,
for
actually,
some
she
of y'all
does.
who don't.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. If you look in the D9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the D9 cancels it, but it's in the sixth house cancellation too, which is an ouch. It's a bittersweet cancellation.
So it's exalted in the D9. So for those of you who don't know, Venus is debilitated in the sign of Virgo, and it's exalted in the sign of Pisces. So that's what he's talking about here in the D9, which is a divisional chart. We got to do a show on the Navamsha.
Yeah, we will be doing it this season for sure.
Right, but this little chart right over here is a different kind of play on life, a different phase, different application type of chart or whatever. But this planet gets exalted here, so it helps to cancel the debilitation that we see in her birth chart or whatnot.
Definitely. Yeah. One of the good students here asked, seventh house has directional strength. Yes, it does, but strength doesn't mean good. Right? Strength means strength, right? And it's strong, right? Its placement is fairly well because it's in a sign that does give it some lessening of the load. Being in a Venus ruled sign for Saturn is a sweet spot, right? It's kind of like, okay, I'm in a place where at least I can, the energy here is not so harsh. But guess what? If you look back to that D9 again,
right? Debilitated,
right? So for all intents and purposes, right?
In the seventh house.
In the house of marriage, right? Long-term commitments, promises, and how the person looks upon their connection to the other person from a divine perspective, right? So, it's a struggle for her, right? This is a relationship has been a lesson for her. And, as this Jupiter dasha progresses, right, I would imagine that it's going to be a seesaw effect. They might be the type where they separate but stay married, right? That's a very strong possibility with Saturn in the seventh, with Jupiter in direct opposition, right? And Jupiter is a fairly it's an interesting planet for Scorpio ascendant, right? It rules the second and the fifth house. So guess why they would stay married, or at least stay in the marriage? Children. Right? She would, at least herself, she would stay for children, because that fifth lord, right, is
Right.
prominent, and the fifth house is stronger. Well, it's about the same as the second house in the sense of the strength, but for the most part, it would be because she loves her children. She loves her children, right? Because Jupiter's in the ascendant, and that's fifth lord in the ascendant, and also loves her family too. So that's definitely personal for her, and it's very she takes it on as part of her image. But Saturn, which is patience, endurance, painstaking processes, right? Being able to be mature. That wasn't very mature for her to be on the red table talk, divulging their entire entanglements, right? And I'm sure, Will has probably done his fair share as well. And we'll look at his chart very shortly, just a second. But just to kind of give you the backdrop of this whole event, right, that has taken place. And we and I, me and my co-host here, we definitely been talking about it because it's interesting to see, right? It's an
Right.
interesting topic. It's an interesting kind of event. But nonetheless, besides the event, you can see this kind of strain and stress inside of their connection and inside of their marriage. And this is from her perspective as well. So you also have to understand it from her as a woman's point of view. But if we look at Will's chart, right, it's interesting because we can see Will is the seventh house for her.
Right.
Right. So there's a natural affinity and attraction to one another, natural, just off the rip, right? Now, if Pac had been around, we might have a different conversation, right? Right. I bet you, I'll tell you this much. I don't think it would have been a red table talk if Tupac had been around, right? I don't think it wouldn't have been a red. I doubt that, right? But you never know. But
Right. I mean, we have to see what. Maybe we'll do a show on what Tupac could have developed. What elder Tupac may have looked like if he would have survived.
right, he would have actually probably been, I would, in my vision, say a very wise person going through. Age puts something on you, changes your thinking. And if he
Mhm.
had lasted, I think Pac would have probably ended up in politics, or um, at least the in a civil rights type of aspect of things, more than he would have in the gangster side. That would have burned out, I think, for Pac pretty quickly. Um,
Right.
Considering age changes your thinking, right? Most OGs go back to the hood and try to change the youth's mind to get them out of that thinking instead of encourage it. But you never know, because he does have that sun in Gemini, so it's hard to tell with Pac, right? But um, interesting enough, she's got Saturn in his ascendant within what 5 degrees, I think, right?
Mhm.
Right. It's within 5 degrees of his ascendant, so he's gonna take her pretty serious, right? No, within 1 degree of his ascendant. Isn't that what is that? 19 degrees. It's 13 degrees. His ascendant is right at what is that? 12 degrees. Yeah, no, 14. So 13, 14. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So the relationship, from his perspective, bringing her into his particular apparatus it's gonna be serious. It's gonna be harsh. He's gonna have to take a lot of pressure, and he's taking. There's a lot of talk about Will right now being two sides, right? We talked about it earlier. A lot of talk about Will being a simp, right? Right. And Will, not a pimp, but a simp, right? Right. And Will being uh, uh, the knight in shining armor, right?
Yeah, it ain't a
Being
lot of people that.
chivalrous to a degree. And, it could be a little of both, I mean, to tell you the truth, right? It's probably a little bit of both, right? Yep. Saturn is his Badakhstana, right? You're right. Definitely obstructions there. I saw that earlier. Good looking, good looking. Um, And they both have the same Bodhisattva houses, right? Both of them, right? They both are going to have those same Bodhisattva houses. Jada's going to have it in the ninth, and so as well. But you know, it's interesting that her Saturn being over his ascendant, Saturn can also humiliate you. It can definitely make you feel, you know, it can tighten you to where you thought you were something, and what other person to bring you to your reality check than your mate, right?
Right.
I mean, seriously, it's not easy to be with a very fiery, hot woman, right? When she's got all this heat and energy, and
Yeah.
considering, looking at it from the perspective of relationships, when you look at their charts, his ascendant lord is in his sixth house. That really kind of honed in on the first wife a lot. That really kind of sparked the divorce within the first wife. But guess what, folks? Guess what? Right? It's not too far reach for the second wife either. Because
No.
when we look at this, you know, there's a way to find each person in your life, even including the second, third, and fourth, and even up to the fifth, and I mean sometimes sixth, right? Depending on this nowadays, that's not uncommon. But especially in Hollywood, right?
Right.
That kind of is the name of the game. Um, unless you got those mantras, right? Yeah, he's gonna take the mantras and some mental discipline, some mental work and discipline, and when you even got money like that, you know what I mean. You know, Sometimes those of us that don't have all that money are a lot safer spiritually speaking because we see things from a different purview. When you have money,
You don't got the tools to destroy yourself.
exactly, right?
Not completely.
Right? So you harness those forces that be for your benefit, whereas those have access to resources that kind of undermine that process. But it doesn't mean that those that have wealth don't access it as well. Some do, but it's
Right.
very far and few in between. But when you look at the second lord, that's the second wife, people, the second spouse, right? I don't want to be biased. It's the second spouse. And look where it is. Mercury rules Gemini. It's in the house of divorce. I gotta say it like it is. Right? It's in the house of divorce. So I mean he's struggling to keep this thing together. He's in a Venus Dasha period, which represents himself. And the sixth house, Tauruses many times can be their own what?
Worst enemy.
Worst enemy. Right? They can undo the Scorpio. And guess what? Guess who else can be their own worst enemy? Scorpio
Scorpio.
can be their own worst enemy. Right? Why do you say that? Because the ascendant Lord, which represents the individual, the personality, the native, and the sixth house or the sixth Lord are ruled. They're the same Lord. So the sixth house is enemies, right? And the ascendant is you. So you can be your own enemy, right? You can be your own enemy. And so, considering, has she been her own enemy? Well, if anything that's activated in the sixth house from the ascendant, and guess what, folks? Mars is in the third house. Mars activates 4 houses from itself by aspect, is aspecting the sixth house of enemies. So, by way of her expression and communication, she can be her own what? Worst enemy. With Rahu added to added energy, right? So she's already put her stuff out there. And normally, Scorpios are very private, but for her, it's the antithesis because the moon and Mercury are in the 10th house of on the public stage. So she feels comfortable being in the public eye. She has no problem doing that.
But she was relatively private, up
Prior
until
to,
maybe
right,
like, maybe about past decade she's been real
right,
vocal.
prior to, but guess what? Rahu said, not anymore.
Right.
Not anymore. You're not. You got this overwhelming need to tell your
Tell you.
business, right? An insatiable desire to tell it all, right?
That's
Well,
a heck of a desire, right?
hey,
Gee whiz.
hey,
Will's over there like, man,
oh my God, man. What
shut
did I
up,
get
woman.
myself? What a, what did I get myself into? No wonder Tupac dated her, right? She got a mouth on her,
Yeah.
right? Just what it is, right? So, Will's chart definitely he's got some things where he's a very stalwart, nice guy, But you know what they say about nice guys these days, right? They happen to finish last, right?
Yeah.
And his ascendant lord is in the sign of Libra, it's in Chitra, right? Um, and he and his second wife are fairly close. His ascendant lord is within less than a degree from the second lord, which is the second wife. So he's very close to her. He does love her. He's in love. I mean, the guy's in love. I hate to say it that way, but I'm not gonna call him a sucker. I'm not gonna call you that. I'm just saying, bro, right? You should have put a stop to that red table talk a long time ago, man. Right? Not in my house. You're not gonna put our business on Front Street like that. No way. And then to add insult to injury, right? You continue. Okay, you let it. Then I'm not gonna go there. That'll be you and your thing. And then on top of that, it's not gonna continue. And then to add the final cherry on top, no, that we're gonna call it a blue table talk, and you're gonna talk about things other than our business, right? Because it
Right.
has nothing to do with no, that's how you ruin a marriage, right? Doesn't help because you feel like you're, I guess, purging yourself and what do you call it? Putting yourself into this type of, I guess, I don't know what kind of light you want to say, but it's not saintly, but nonetheless, right? And it's even a lot of talk. I mean, there's so many rumors, it's just ridiculous. But isn't it interesting that that rumor thing would be pertinent to Rahu conjunct the ascendant Lord, right? And they talking about she was pregnant by somebody else. That was something I saw on the news the other or on YouTube the other day. I'm like, wow. Like, just all the talk, you know. But nonetheless, Will's a pretty decent guy in the sense of how he you know, presents himself in relationships, right? Just to take for example, the ascendant Lord is in the sign of Libra, right?
Hmm.
Libras are fairly balanced and equitable in how they deal with things. And for Tauruses, right, as an ascendant, it's very much a struggle. It's, because Tauruses are fixed by nature. They're very stalwart. They're very much 4 feet flat. And Libra is the scales. So that's why it's an enemy house, because the going back and forth presents stress to the Taurus, right? And that Mercury is the stress is coming from, guess what? Wife number 2,
Right.
right? But to add that in, right? Their sun, they have a sun conjunct each other. Their suns are they have the same sun sign. So there's a strong soul connection there. Strong soul connection. But that sun is combust his ascendant Lord. So she's gonna beat up on him pretty good. Tiny little Jada, right? And 6'2" Will, 230 pounds, and get whooped on, right? Mentally, right? By her. Because K2 when it conjuncts the ascendant Lord, right? Right. When K2, right, in one person's chart conjuncts the other person's ascendant Lord, that's a whooping. That person doesn't feel like they have any control. That's how he feels. I have no control over this woman, this relationship. I feel out of pocket, out of sorts. Why am I going through this? The big question mark, why?
Right.
Well, you owe, right? And his ascendant Lord is debilitated in that 11th house, right? Of social interactions. Isn't that interesting? right? In social interactions is what debilitates. Social interactions is just the same thing as the table talk. It's the same process. It's the, a table has a group sitting around it.
Right.
So you got to understand this is how he feels. So he's kind of out of sorts. You know, things happen with her. Things happen with her. He's sitting there with her. Things happen. Go figure, right? I'm just showing you how these things, and he's in a what dasha? Venus
Venus.
dasha. So
Right.
it's all about him and his reputation, his presentation, how he's viewed upon, his name.
He has to fight for it. He's fight for his
Yeah,
reputation.
he gotta make sure it's not just put in the mud, right?
Right.
Because it's combust and debilitated based on her chart. So he's living life. See, relationships are about you living life through the other person and them living life through you. That's how relationships work. That's why the chart combines in the way it does. So when you see that person's ascendant lord debilitated in the other person's chart, you're living their life as if through them, as if it's debilitated or weakened. They weaken you straight up. Straight up. Right. You got to understand that his seventh lord, which is his second child, which is the oldest child, has now come out as being homosexual.
Mm-hmm.
It's Rahu conjunct Rahu in her chart. Straight up. That's how it works. That's how it works. So the interlacing of karma produces these fallouts. That's why they say look deep before you leap. Look at his Navamsha. The D9 chart is a chart that indicates how you deal with the supreme being, and in direct or in indirectly deal with relationships, because relationships is the fastest way to supreme being, other than being what's called a renunciate. Marriage is a ceremonious process. It's an initiation. That's why they have a what? Ceremony. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You make a vow, just like you make a vow to the supreme being, a vow of abstinence, a vow of silence, a vow of poverty. You make a vow to the person that you're with.
Right.
So it's an initiation. People don't see it that way. That's what it is. And look, in his seventh house, right, in the D9, he's got, right, Venus, Rahu, and Mercury. Are you serious? That's conjunct directly back to her what? Ascendant.
Send it. Yeah.
This is the interlacing of two people's karmas that come to play, and they're bound to live this out. When they saw each other, it was like boom, ignition, ignite. It's on. So you can see these things, right, as they play out. It's beautiful, right? This astrology is no joke, but he's in that Venus dasha, and Venus is combust in her chart. So when you see Venus Sun, he's running a Venus Sun. It's not combust in his chart, but it's combust in his wife's chart. So if you're married, you take on some of those energies. So that Venus and Venus and Sun dasha is going to combust. It's interesting how it works. What is combustion? What does it do? It makes you super sensitive, makes your skin thin. Makes you, most of us don't get sunburn, but the people that do, right? Sunburn is when you touch someone that has sunburn, they about ready to knock you out, because it's so sensitive. So any
Right.
planets that's combust, it's sensitive around that area. And Venus is relationships. So their relationship is very sensitive to him. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just interesting how it's playing out. But nonetheless, right, just to give you some context and pretext to what this whole event is about, how it pops out. Now, he and I have been back and forth, right? And, it's hard to say what really happened, people, right?
Right.
I have my side that's part of me, and I'm just going to keep it above, just keep it 1,000 with you. Part of me says it's staged. Part of me says it's not. Let me tell you why I say it's not staged first. The reaction that Will Smith gave when he sat down. That's the part of me that says something was triggered.
Well, you know, the other thing too, and I'm sure you were gonna go there, is just like right now what's happening. Their ascendant lords are in a planetary war with each other.
Not even well, they were in a planetary war.
Right.
They're no longer in a planetary war, but they were for some time. And when they were in that planetary war,
Mm-hmm.
they definitely had some spillover, right, into the limelight where they have this kind of love-hate relationship.
Right. Like they could have been beefing recently.
They were
You know,
beefing. Oh,
they're
they were.
beefing. You know.
No, don't. They were beefing. You can guarantee that.
Right.
But Venus and Mars, with regards to relationships, is love hate. It's
Yeah.
passion and it's anger. It's
Right.
love and it's lust, right? And so, it's this kind of energetic tug of war that they feel with one another. Where, Saturn in her seventh house, I can't leave this man. You got to understand how she feels. She is his seventh house. So there's an interlock there. There's an interlock.
Right.
Right. In his D9, I don't want to call it a relationship chart. It is not your relationship chart. It is actually your spiritual chart, or your start chart that deals with the external side of your spirituality, not the internal, but the external side of your spirituality, which ties into the external side of how you connect with the supreme being, which is either the supreme being itself or your mate. It's one of the two, right? Because people that don't get married, they still have a D9, right? And they deal with, or people that live in ashrams, or people that are nuns, priests, those kind. They still have a D9. That D9 then shows their ninth house. The D9 is really your ninth house chart. It's not your seventh house chart. But I teach those things to my students because I teach them how to understand the parameters within the context of the D9, and that is a very deep topic because it's not just easily read based on your spouse. It's not really that. But
Right.
if you're going to be married and take a vow and take it seriously, then it becomes the chart that emulates how you deal with the person that, your wife or your husband knows more about you than your mama, than your children, than your homies, than your brother, right? For the most part, your wife knows everything, or your husband knows everything next to the spring being. He is actually a great actor. That's an excellent point too. And that Venus ruled ascendant does give him acting skills, right? They're both pretty
Right.
good actors, right? Sun in the fifth house also gives him the limelight when it comes to doing his role. So by far, he does do well, right? Fifth house is also acting people, right? It's that ability to have a presence on screen, and the man does that, right? Bar
There's
none, right?
Neptune over there too.
I got you. See, I mean, considering the outer planets, when you throw those in, you can loop those in a generational sense. But
Oh no, I'm tripping. That's Uranus. My bad. I'm right. No, take that back.
yes, that's your Uranus.
Yeah.
But Neptune is in his eighth house. I mean seventh house. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, right, he does have that presence on screen. No lie. The thing is that. And the reason, let me tell you what his real skill of why he's an actor that does so well. His moon is conjunct Venus, right? That's the real skill, right? His ascendant lord is conjunct his mind. Mind and body have a strong connection. So he can bring off, when he played Ali, he played the hell out of Ali. Our guy will give him salute to that role, right? Because
Right.
Ali was a dope for it, right? I mean, he played that, the mannerisms. It was almost like a Jamie Foxx type of deal, right? With Ray, I put them parallel. Of course, Ray was a little bit better because Ray, he had to play that piano, right? And the way he pulled, I mean,
I think
Ray was cold, right?
To me, Jamie Foxx is probably. I mean, it's gonna sound crazy, but I think he's probably one of the best actors in the
I do
game.
too.
Period.
I do
Yeah,
too. I do too. Yeah. I'm talking about modern wise. Yeah, he carries his role, right? Very
I
well.
put it all time.
Ooh, you know, you know.
I'll put him over Denzel. I'll put him over
Oh
Denzel.
yeah, but I'm talking about Lawrence Fishburne. That's my pot. That's my dude, man.
Yeah,
Lawrence
Lawrence
Fishburne
Fishburne
is
is
cold,
cold. Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
He,
Because
he's
he got
cold,
his
man.
range is crazy.
His range is cold, right? He could play
Go
Othello.
from
He could. I mean,
what's
he's
his name
dope.
from King of New York.
King.
Uh,
Did
go,
you believe he
go,
was King of New York? Then
well,
you
I mean,
believed
just
it. Yeah,
his role in there to the Matrix,
he's man.
or into
Lawrence Fishburne
Furious.
to
Whatchamacallit.
me, Lawrence Fishburne to me is the goal line of actors, right? He's like, if you are with, and I mean, he's played in Aliens. I mean, you know, he just the way he carries himself as an actor to me, right, is by far the best. Considering Morgan Freeman, pretty good too, right? But Morgan Freeman plays
The same
the
guy.
the same guy in different roles, right? But Lawrence Fishburne though, that man is a master, right? But Jamie Foxx though, when it comes to imitation of life, imitation of to imitate, man, the dude, like when he does Mike Tyson, he has the ability to carry off and be a ventriloquist when it comes to other people's identities.
It's
So
possession.
yeah, possession, exactly. So Jamie Foxx is, and I mean, when it comes to Ray and Ali, I'm saying they were close. But of course, because he's actually a musician as well. But Ali
Right.
was a damn good role.
Yeah.
It was a good role, and I mean, it was believable. You could feel it. It was, when I watch Ali to this day, I still get the same energy as when I watched it the first time. So it was a very good role. He's done, After Earth. Um, what's the other one? The alien, the zombies. He's a good actor.
Right.
Good actor. But
King Richard, the
King
one that's
Richard, right?
even
Just
the one that he
right.
got the Oscar for.
Yeah, yeah. He has a emotional content with his acting. That's what I mean, right?
Right.
Strong emotional content, but that's that ascended Lord conjunct the moon, right?
Hmm.
Third Lord, right? Can carry out and carry off, excuse me, those other identities very, very well. So he doesn't have like a a a a a, a, a place where you don't believe it. Oh yeah, I could see that. I could see him being that person. So definitely salute to you, Will, and your skill set. But when it comes to the private life, bro, right, man, right, you got a winner. So this whole thing about this kind of incident, right? I'm split, and I'm just gonna say I'm split. Reason why I'm split is because of this. The way it happened. Now I don't know about y'all, right? But if I slap somebody, right? And I won't put myself in the slappy position, right? If I slap somebody, right, I can pretty much tell you my hand, when it hits your face, the reaction will not be to come back with a immediate response as to say, wow, I was just slapped by Will Smith. It's gonna be like, bro, what the heck is wrong? Are you tripping? Like it would be a it would be a response that would tell me or tell you that I got slapped, right? Versus being in a I don't want to say scripted, but just a response that was seemingly characteristic of Chris Rock. You know what I mean? Like Chris Rock gets slapped. I mean, on a movie, he gonna say something like that. Wow, I just got a comedic response is what I mean, right? That's Chris Rock. He's a comedian by trade. But I'm
Right.
talking about real life stuff by when you get slapped, right? The comedy goes out the door, right? Comedy, all of that stuff. So that's where I'm on the side of him not being slapped. But then on the other side, when I saw Jada's response was genuine, right? It was. You can tell she was embarrassed, right?
Hmm.
That was genuine. So that wasn't faked, right? Um, It was a sling slap with him made very quickly. I'm saying, if I slap you, it's gonna sting to the point where you're gonna have to tell me something about that slap. It's not gonna be a comedic response. Right? It's gonna be like, man, why did you do that? What's wrong with you? It was a joke. I mean, like, he did say that, but the way he said it just left me a little dry. Right? It didn't feel
I
authentic.
I could see both sides, you know, but
Yeah.
to me, like I said, sometimes you could be, especially you're a pro, you know, you a aged pro, you know, you're almost 60 years old, Chris Rock, or whatnot, you know, being able to just be on alert for somebody trying to trick you out of your bag. I could see him just, you know what I mean? And then what they say, always keep the show moving. Always keep the
Keep the
show
show on the
going,
road. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's the one thing that kind of pulled me to say it wasn't staged is because the audience's response. If you look at what's her name, Lupita,
Lupita.
Lupita's response
They
was
didn't they were like, was it what was that a skit, or was that they
right.
were
That's
all
what I'm
kind of like, they
saying.
was in
Right?
between, they
Yeah,
didn't know.
yeah.
And then
That's
when they seen Will come back and start yelling from the seats, then they was like, oh no, he wasn't playing. So then they
right.
about to lose the crowd, and then that's when Chris Rock come in and crack a joke to ease the tension in the room.
Yeah,
I could
that.
see both sides.
Yeah,
If it was staged, the way that I see it is Chris Rock offering it up to Will Smith. Hey man, everybody ragging on you or whatnot. This what I'm gonna do or whatnot. That's
yeah,
the scenario where I see it could happen. But
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Chris Rock. I mean, I guess we could go over that a little bit too,
Well,
or
let's look at this
whatnot.
chart for a brief second because we would think
Yeah,
we've kind of touched upon their interaction, and it is very
the
strong
build up.
and exactly the build up. But
Right.
Chris is kind of the linchpin here. He's the kind of intersecting energy. He's the Badakstana, right? Right, of the two, right? Um, so we got Pisces ascendant with Chris, and I could see Chris being Pisces. But it's funny. His build
He got all
is
girls.
yeah, he does. You're right. Bingo, bingo, bongo. Yep. Pisces ascendant. He's just so thin, and I don't meet very many Pisces that are thin. Not many. But then he does have Jupiter in the second
And
house
Aries.
in Aries, which would thin him up. And then Saturn does aspect the ascendant Lord as well. So that definitely can, reduce his body weight.
And Mars
Um,
is an aspect in the ascendant.
it can make it thin. Yeah, it can make it more wiry or more, I don't want to say muscular because he's not muscular. But it definitely can add the heat index to his metabolism. Sure. Sure.
Mhm.
Um, and again, the time is a little Jeffy, Um,
Yeah, it's probably
here's
not
here
10 on the dot.
here's the thing. Here's the crazy thing. If we nudge that time, I'm just hold on. Let me see something. If we nudge that time, because it's a very 10 o'clock is not his birth time. I'm pretty sure of it, right? If we nudge that time, let's just say 10 minutes, 11 minutes. 11 minutes, he's gonna be Aries ascendant.
Mhm.
11 minutes, he's Aries. I don't see Chris as Aries as well. But the thing about it, Moon and Jupiter would be in the ascendant. So it wouldn't surprise me, folks, if he's Aries. I'm just kind of playing around with it because at 10:11 it puts it right into Aries. So 11 minutes difference would definitely nudge it over.
That's why
So
that time is so important, folks.
you gotta have the right time or it doesn't congeal right. Right.
Right.
Um, so the fact that he's got all girls is a good point, right? Very strong point, and that definitely will happen with Pisces. So we'll leave him as Pisces. I may rectify it throughout the year and we may come back to it and actually have a real live talk about his exact ascendant degree. But that takes a little while, right? Rectification is not an easy process, people.
Right.
Um, but putting him back in, putting him back at 10 o'clock. Interestingly enough, he would still be in Rahu Dasha either way, right? Rahu is either way. Now, Rahu in his chart is also in the third house, like Jada. Of course, completely different scenario, but it is in the third house. So, doing some risque things wouldn't surprise me. Doing things that might be out of the box or unprecedented wouldn't surprise me. Um, the thing is that Rahu for him is in Taurus, and so Rahu in Taurus doesn't like to take a whole lot of chances, believe it or not. Right? There's a very
Hmm.
stabilized Rahu. They say it's exalted. I don't teach that there's an exaltation, debilitation to Rahu or Ketu. It's part of the Lord of Rahu or Ketu that you look at. So that's not what I teach, right? You might hear that in common Vedic astrology vernacular, and let me tell you why we know it's not true. In the systems that we use, especially Parshars Light and the other systems that I use, it gives you a chance. It gives you the option to change the exaltation.
Hmm.
You can change it to Gemini as well, right? Some people say Gemini is the exaltation for Rahu, right? I say they don't have one. I say the ascendant, the Lord of Rahu or Ketu provides the litmus test for their positioning. Because you can have Rahu in Scorpio and it can be very powerful. You can have Rahu in Taurus and it can be very much stable or safety zone or materialistic. Let's just say that, right? But nonetheless, many's conjecture will be stabilized in Taurus. So Rahu is leaving there. It's gonna leave there as of the 13th of this month per the mean node, not the true node per the mean node. So Rahu being
You,
there, little
I
risque
think
behavior, you
it
know.
could be I think it's a cultural view of Rahu that
It
would make
is. It
you push it,
absolutely is.
make you
Yeah.
view it Taurus as the
Yeah.
yeah, especially with those. It's like it depends on what Rahu's role is in that
Mhm.
era.
Sure. And here's the thing though, Parashara does say that Scorpio is Rahu's Mula Trikona because they're both serpents.
Hmm.
It just means sometimes Rahu is too much in Scorpio. That's what they're really saying to you. It's too
Hmm.
much, right? It's too mas, right? So, considering, right? Because K2 and Taurus will nullify a lot of those desires for material wealth. And that's what spiritually speaking you're supposed to want, right? Is to deny, materialism for spirituality. So again, it's just you got to kind of play with it and go through. And the houses also make a big difference. Nakshatras make a big difference. Aspects make a big difference. Like I said, the Lord, which is the karmic distributor for Chris Rock, karmic distributor is Venus and it's in Capricorn, which is a very strong Rahu, right?
Right.
Because it's in a friend sign, right? And it's in a very strong house, which is the 11th house. And Venus is not even combust. So it's very strong, right? In the consideration of where it is. It's in Uttara Shada. That's also a very stalwart nakshatra. Um, gives that Rahu the ability to stay grounded and focused towards the end. So his Rahu is not damaged in the least. But at the same time, right, he's Pisces ascendant according to this time. And Pisces ascendants can be they can be humorous. That's why I think where he gets his humor from, if this is his time. Um, but the ascendant Lord is in the second house of Aries, and I I'm looking at it when I'm looking at this. June he does have a Gajrakasari yoga, right, which is
Hmm.
very strong. Um, but again, right, Mars is in the seventh house. I don't know how many times I don't know how many wives he's had. I don't think Chris Rock has been married more, but one time. I don't know.
No, he's
But I
divorced.
is he divorced?
Uh,
Okay, then that would
he's
make
divorced
sense.
now. He's getting. Man, that he got hit with hardcore with the alimony.
But that was his only wife, though, wasn't it?
Let me look it up real quick. Yep, that's his only wife. I lost you for a second, brother.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
So, Mars is in the seventh house. I could see that happening right now during Rahu. Rahu aspects the seventh house. So I can see that happening, definitely, considering especially what's transiting and what's on the horizon. So it all makes sense. But the thing about it is just for the moment's sake, because I don't want to get too far off into Chris's chart, but for the sake of the moment, right? Look at what's transiting, right? Jupiter is in the 12th house, right? Venus is in the 12th house. So I'm sorry, no, Venus is in the 11th
Yeah,
house,
11.
excuse me, 11th house. Again, and this is all conjunct his natal Venus and natal Mercury. So, you know, that's why it's hard to say. You know, it's very difficult to say as to what really happened. But I can tell you this much, right? With regards to where Mercury is, right? It is an ascendant, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that would definitely present the option to make a crass joke, right? You know, to say something that you probably you could have left that one alone, Chris. You know, you dropped a bomb on her when she was really at her, not to say at her lowest, but at a low point. You know what I mean? For her, because she's always been the apple of men's eye. You know, and for a woman to get plastic surgery tells you that she doesn't have comfort fully with herself. A woman that gets plastic surgery tells me that it's something about yourself that you didn't like,
Right.
whatever it is. You know, of course, there's corrective plastic surgery. That's a little different when you have a car accident or, you've been in a fire or something has happened to you to create a physical deformity. Corrective surgery that's what, to me, that's plastic surgery is what it's supposed to do. But when nothing's wrong with you, like Lil Kim, for example, like,
Yeesh. I
like
don't know why she did that. I
she
mean,
was
she
beautiful
went.
back in the day. Lil Kim was she was cute. She was sexy. Now, who? You see her walking down the street, and you saw them walking down the old Lil Kim and the new Lil Kim walking down the street. You wouldn't even think they're the same person. I mean, that's self. Something's going on inside of your mind. It'd be interesting to pull Lil Kim's chart too, right? We might have to do her. We might
I'll
have to
look
do a
it up and see.
plastic surgery type piece, right?
Right.
Because there's
Right.
something going on with that ascendant eighth house connection, right? Usually, right? Um, so just interesting to have her do that to herself. And it shows that a person doesn't like completely who they are, how they look. So for her to do that tells me that if she loses her hair, that would also be another kind of kick in the same direction. You know what I mean? That would be kind of that same energy just smashed, right? In the same way. So when for him to make that crass Mercury debilitated joke, right, where he has no feeling, fourth lord debilitated in the ascendant, right, or his feelings are kind of off or misplaced, yeah, it would make sense for him to say something like that when Mercury's pushing the button. You know what I mean? Mercury's making this the hey, uh, GI Jane type. Like really, like okay. you know. So
I forgot about that movie. I forgot about
right,
G.I.
like where'd
Jane.
that come from, right?
He pulled that out.
And for a second, because I had forgot about her alopecia, I said, "Oh, she's gonna be the new GI." Being goofy, she'd be the new GI. I said, "Oh, ain't no new GI Jane. There ain't no new movie."
He should. He should have said Black Panther or something.
Right. Like, oh, you gonna be the new black, something, right? But
Like one of
yeah,
the whatchamacallit, the Warriors, the girls.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty low blow, man. Right. And I'm sure he knows that everyone in Hollywood in the inner circle, they know, what's what, you know.
Right.
Um, so for him to say it, Mercury in the ascendant makes sense. Makes you always want to see what someone's motivations are to do something. And that motivation would definitely be Mercury right there. Hey, say this, right? Or this will be a great, segue into the award, type
Right.
deal, because Mercury is the inner voice. It's that voice that says it's the inner voice that becomes the outer voice. And it's like, did you really say that? It's in the 12th house from the moon, right? So that means that he didn't really, right, care, or really didn't have he was just detached from the statement, emotionally speaking, right? Right. Emotionally speaking. I'm sure he might have said he loved her, right? But at the moment, right, and he said he even said it, that was a good one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mercury was in opposition to Mars, right? Which is quick thinking, right? Quick statements. And he did say that he planned all his jokes. See, this is what I'm saying. He said he planned all his jokes prior to, and he doesn't let anybody see them, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, where would you go with that one? Like, what did you expect the response to be? And I think he didn't, if it is real, right? He didn't expect Will to get up and say nothing, because Will's been looked at as a simp. You know, you know, you let this woman tell darn near everything about your private life on Red Table Talk. So what you gonna do, right? Well, if it was real, he definitely got a response. It was unexpected. But the thing of it is this, and this is why if you look at it very carefully, actors are very crafty, right? They're very adept in being able to make something look real.
Right.
And they're both old heads in the game. I am pretty sure I think Chris Rock has been slapped a couple times on screen, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm pretty sure Will has slapped a few people, right? So,
Willis slapped somebody else in real life about something. When the dude
he
tried
popped
to
him. He popped him. Yeah, he popped him. Tried to
real
kiss
quick.
him. Yeah, he
Yeah.
popped him. That was a pop. That's what. See, that's the point I'm making to you. That was a pop. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
hey man, what's wrong with you? And the dude, right, kind of reeled back a little bit. Okay, I thought I heard you were gay or homosexual, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he made a gesture according to what he probably thought. Who knows, right? But the thing is, that was a pop. This was supposed to be a slap, right? And for him to pow, and him not to eyeball go this way, mouth something, right?
See, I don't
Spit
think he got a
fly.
good connection. I don't think he made a good connection.
What is wrong with Will's hands? Because he was leaning. Chris Rock wasn't. See, it'd be different if Chris Rock had like jarred back and then he like made me missed and then scuffed him. No, Will was completely the opposite. He was into the camp. He was leaning into, and I'm like, the scenario was odd, right? It's just odd. It's hard to tell either way. But for the most part, I think even if it wasn't necessarily 100% genuine, and maybe Will might have just let him know in a way of saying, I won't pop you, but I will swing at you, that could have happened, right? That, hey, like, I'm not going to hit you, but I will cuff you, right? And dude, don't play with my wife. because she's over here. She did have that. Her response was real. Of all the
Right.
responses of everything, hers was genuine because she did feel genuinely humiliated, right? So it's hard to say. It's one of those you have to toss a coin, see, okay, what really happened. But all of
Well,
the go ahead.
either way, I don't think Will. I mean, it wasn't. I don't think he felt the same way about it that she did. So
No, not
even
at
him
all.
going up there
No,
doing that was just for the for just to try
for
to
the gram, for the
yeah,
gram. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was for the
you know
gram. Yeah,
right.
but you better than me, man. Because the red table talk, I'd have been like, oh, you cold with it, right? Red table talking, right? Take it to the red table, right? Tell you how it felt, made you, because I mean, for all intents and purposes, that's what she does. She spills her heart out on this red table. So, you know, she could have told and said, Chris Rock made me feel less than human and whatever the case is. I don't know, right? But Will, you definitely got a two-sided view here, man. You got a simpish view and you got a superhero view and off screen. So, a lot of women have said that that's what a man should do, right? Men too. I've heard some men say that too. That men, that's how you defend your woman's honor. Yeah, true, right?
Yeah,
Again,
on the
right?
street. If you
On
walking down the
right, on
street or something like
right,
that,
right.
at an award show,
You know what I mean? But
her life wasn't threatened. You understand what I'm
no,
saying?
not at all. Her emotions, her feelings were hurt, right? But
Yeah,
right,
that's
she wasn't in
subjective, but
danger.
like,
No, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, you know, interesting. Interesting perspective on this one. It's hard to say as to it, but I know he did make that joke, and that joke came right out that Mercury debilitation in Pisces. Right, that was real, right? And that opposition to Mars on the day in which it was said is definitely a strong play on there's a strong play on how it played out. Mars is even as no Mercury is Mercury combust? I think Mercury's combust on that day. Yeah, it is. Right. It is. Right. So
hmm
interestingly enough, right? These are the things that you look at when you look at this. The sun is in the sun is in the ascendant too. Sun does rule the sixth house of enemies. Does rule the sixth house of enemies. So it could be that that enemy was Will that day. You know, was Will that day, right? In opposition to Mars again, right? Within a few degrees. Well, let's see, Mars at 4 degrees. Sun would have been at 13. So what? 10, almost 9 degrees difference. So a strong enough arc to get the job done. So yeah, it's interesting. Definitely interesting. Ascendant Lord would have been in the 12th house, conjunct Saturn, not by degree, but with Saturn. So and 12th house is it's an interesting thing because again, the 12th house can be you behind the scenes doing something, um, in a way that is clandestine, right? Secret, you know. 12th house is a house of secret.
either way it go, this would probably be a fruitful year for
Both of
Chris
them will
Rock.
definitely come on top from this fiasco, right? Jada, on the other hand, I don't know how she's gonna play it out, but um, you know,
Definitely
definitely,
Chris Rock. Chris Rock gonna be lit this year,
yeah. They
and
say his
I'm just
ticket sales have like gone through the roof because of this.
like a
Right?
G,
Yeah,
$1,000. It's you know what I mean. You
yeah,
know,
that's serious business. Yeah.
and then if it's ascendant is Pisces, then
Oh, then right, Jupiter will be right and exact in that ascendant from until January of next year. Oh, no, April of next year. Excuse me,
April. Yeah,
April of 2023. Yeah. So no doubt, no doubt. So yeah, hey, folks, I'm sure you all have your own perceptions and insights into this. Definitely, share in the comments. Post your thoughts, share with us what you think, and let us know how you see it. We definitely are always open for our viewers to share what they think about the whole thing. So let us know. But we've kind of come to a point where we'll leave it in your hands to make your judgments. But we've definitely presented some astrological underpinnings as to what these triggers may have been as far as the event itself is concerned.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. All right, folks. So that's been episode 10 of season 5, episode 110 overall. Make sure you like and subscribe this video and subscribe to this channel. If you hadn't already, make sure you're on that notification bell or whatnot so you can know when we're dropping new content, putting out new material, with converting this channel into Cosmic Convos kind of opens it up to do some more, some other different type of content on the channel. So you'll see some new things rolling out with this situation. So definitely stay tuned into that. All right. But, without holding you all any longer, thank you all for tuning in, and we will be back definitely next week with another great show for you all. Everybody be safe out there, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.